Playwright August Wilson. Set in the 1950s, it is the sixth in Wilson's 10-part Pittsburgh cycle. Like all of the Pittsburgh plays, Fences explores the evolving African American experience and examines race relations, among other themes. The play won the 1987 Pulitzer Prize for Drama and the 1987 Tony Award for Best Play. Fences was first developed at the Eugene O'Neill Theater Center's 1983 National Playwrights Conference and premiered at the Yale Repertory Theater in 1985. August Wilson, née Frederick August Kittle Jr., April 27, 1945 to October 2, 2005, was an American playwright. He has been referred to as the theater's poet of Black America. He is best known for a series of 10 plays, collectively called the Pittsburgh Cycle or the Century Cycle, which chronicle the experiences and heritage of the African American community in the 20th century. Plays in the series include Fences 1987 and The Piano Lesson 1990, both of which won the Pulitzer Prize for Drama, as well as Ma Rainey's Black Bottom 1984 and Joe Turner's Come and Gone 1988. In 2006, Wilson was inducted into the American Theater Hall of Fame. His works delve into the African American experience as well as examinations of the human condition. Other themes range from the systemic and historical exploitation of African Americans, as well as race relations, identity, migration, and racial discrimination. Viola Davis said that Wilson's writing captures our humor, our vulnerabilities, our tragedies, our trauma. And he humanizes us. And he allows us to talk. Since Wilson's death, 2 of his plays have been adapted into films, Fences 2016 and Ma Rainey's Black Bottom 2020. Denzel Washington has shepherded the films and has vowed to continue Wilson's legacy by adapting the rest of his plays into films for a wider audience. Washington said, "The greatest part of what's left of my career is making sure that August is taken care of." 4. Summary. The focus of Wilson's attention in Fences is Troy, a 53-year-old working-class head of household who struggles with providing for his family. The play takes place in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, although never officially named. It makes mention of several key locations in Pittsburgh. In his younger days, Troy was an excellent player in Negro League baseball and continued practicing baseball while serving time in prison for a murder he had committed during a robbery. Because the color barrier had not yet been broken in Major League Baseball, Troy was unable to get into the MLB to make good money or to save for the future. He now lives a menial, though respectable, blue-collar life of trash collecting. Later in the play, he remarkably crosses the race barrier and becomes the first black truck driver in Pittsburgh instead of just a barrel lifter. Troy lives with his wife, Rose, and his teenage son, Corey. He has a younger brother, Gabe, a World War II veteran whose war injury to his head has caused him noticeable psychological damage. Gabe had received $3,000 from the government, and Troy took control of this money to purchase a home for his family, including a room for Gabe. A short time before the play's opening, Gabriel has rented a room elsewhere, but still in the neighborhood. Lyons is Troy's older son from a previous marriage, and lives outside the home. Bono is Troy's best friend and co-worker. The play begins on payday, with Troy and Bono drinking and talking. Troy's character is revealed through his speech about how he went up to their boss, Mr. Rand, and asked why African American men are not allowed to drive garbage trucks. Rose and Lyons join in the conversation. Lyons, a musician, has come to borrow money from Troy, confident that he will receive it, and promises to pay him back because his girlfriend Bonnie just got a job. Troy, who is a rigid believer in hard work and responsibility, belittles his son because he refuses to find a real job as Troy did rather than pursuing his dream of becoming a musician. Corey tells Troy and Rose about an opportunity for a college football scholarship. Troy tells Corey he will not let his son play football for fear of racial discrimination, just as Troy believes he experienced when he wanted a career in the National Leagues. However, it is suggested later on that Troy told Corey's coach that his son is no longer able to play football. When Corey discovers this, he and Troy get into a fight resulting in Troy sending Corey to his room. Later, it is revealed that Troy's age after serving a prison sentence, not his race, may have been the primary factor. Father and son argue about Troy's actions, but Troy stubbornly does not back down from his argument and kicks Corey out of the house. Later it is revealed that Corey enlisted in the military after this event. Troy admits to Rose that he has been having an affair and that his mistress, Alberta, is pregnant. Later, Alberta dies in childbirth. Troy brings his baby daughter Raynell home, and Rose agrees to raise the girl as her own, saying, "From right now, this child got a mother. But you a womanless man." She remains in the family home but the couple are estranged. She refuses to accept Troy back into her life. 7 years later, Troy has died. Corey comes home for a visit from the military where he is a corporal in the Marines. He initially refuses to go to his father's funeral due to long-standing resentment, but he is convinced by his mother to pay his respects to his father, the man who, though hard-headed and often poor at demonstrating affection, nevertheless loved his son. The family say their farewells to Troy and offer forgiveness that may not be fully deserved. Allegories. The brother Gabriel is potentially an allegory to salvation. Other than being actually named Gabriel, like the angel, Gabe wears a trumpet, constantly chases away unseen hellhounds, and regularly believes himself to be speaking with Saint Peter. At the end, just before Troy's funeral, the family gathers around Gabe in the yard. He blows 3 times into his trumpet, but no sound comes out. In a moment of trance, Gabe begins to dance and sing. The sun breaks through the clouds while the family looks on. Troy is at last delivered and the rest of the family is too, each seeming to find peace in their relationship with Troy. Citation needed. The fence referred to by the play's title is built over many years and is revealed to be finished only in the final act of the play. It is not obvious as to why Troy wants to build it, but a dramatic monologue in the second act shows how he conceptualizes it as an allegory to keep the Grim Reaper away. The fence is also symbolic of the emotional barrier that Troy erected between himself and his sons, one from each of his adult relationships. Rose also wanted Troy to build the fence as a symbolic means of securing what was her own, keeping what belonged inside in her family and making what should stay outside, stay out. Fences is divided into 2 acts. Act 1 is comprised of 4 scenes and Act 2 has 5. The play begins on a Friday, Troy and Bono's payday. Troy and Bono go to Troy's house for their weekly ritual of drinking and talking. Troy has asked Mr. Rand, their boss, why the black employees aren't allowed to drive the garbage trucks, only to lift the garbage. Bono thinks Troy is cheating on his wife, Rose. Troy and Rose's son, Corey, has been recruited by a college football team. Troy was in the Negro Leagues but never got a chance to play in the major leagues because he got too old to play just as the major leagues began accepting black players. Troy goes into a long epic story about his struggle in July of 1943 with death. Lyons shows up at the house because he knows it is Troy's payday. Rose reminds Troy about the fence she's asked him to finish building. Corey and Troy work on the fence. Corey breaks the news to Troy that he has given away his job at the local grocery store, the A&P, during the football season. Corey begs Troy to let him play because a coach from North Carolina is coming all the way to Pittsburgh to see Corey play. Troy refuses and demands that Corey get his job back. Act 1, Scene 4 takes place on Friday and mirrors Scene 1. Troy has won his case and has been assigned as the first colored garbage truck driver in the city. Bono and Troy remember their fathers and their childhood experiences of leaving home in the South and moving north. Corey comes home enraged after finding out that Troy told the football coach that Corey may not play on the team. Troy warns Corey that his insubordinate behavior is strike 1 against him. Troy bails his brother Gabriel out of jail. Bono and Troy work on the fence. Bono explains to Troy and Corey that Rose wants the fence because she loves her family and wants to keep close to her love. Troy admits to Bono that he is having an affair with Alberta. Bono bets Troy that if he finishes building the fence for Rose, Bono will buy his wife, Lucille, the refrigerator he has promised her for a long time. Troy tells Rose about a hearing in 3 weeks to determine whether or not Gabriel should be recommitted to an asylum. Troy tells Rose about his affair. Rose accuses Troy of taking and not giving. Troy grabs Rose's arm. Corey grabs Troy from behind. They fight and Troy wins. Troy calls, strike 2, on Corey. 6 months later, Troy says he is going over to the hospital to see Alberta, who went into labor early. Rose tells Troy that Gabriel has been taken away to the asylum because Troy couldn't read the papers and signed him away. Alberta had a baby girl but died during childbirth. Troy challenges death to come and get him after he builds a fence. Troy brings home his baby, Raynell. Rose takes in Raynell as her own child, but refuses to be dutiful as Troy's wife. On Troy's payday, Bono shows up unexpectedly. Troy and Bono acknowledge how each man Madigan has bet about the fence and the refrigerator. Troy insists that Corey leave the house and provide for himself. Corey brings up Troy's recent failings with Rose. Corey points out that the house and property, from which Troy is throwing Corey out, should actually be owned by Gabriel, whose government checks paid for most of the mortgage payments. Troy physically attacks Corey, then kicks him out of the house for good. Corey leaves. Troy swings the baseball bat in the air, taunting death. 8 years later, Raynell plays in her newly planted garden. Troy has died from a heart attack. Corey returns home from the Marines to attend Troy's funeral. Lyons and Bono join Rose too. Corey refuses to attend. Rose teaches Corey that not attending Troy's funeral does not make Corey a man. Raynell and Corey sing one of Troy's father's blues songs. Gabriel turns up, released or escaped from the mental hospital. Gabe blows his trumpet but no sound comes out. He tries again but the trumpet will not play. Disappointed and hurt, Gabriel dances. He makes a cry and the heavens open wide. He says, "That's the way that goes," and the play ends. August Wilson's play Fences, the sixth of his 10-part, Pittsburgh cycle, examines the aftermaths of slavery and discrimination of black people in America, the cycle of damaged black manhood, and the choice between pragmatism and illusion. First published in 1986, the play takes place in 1957 and is staged entirely at the Maxon family home in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Wilson's repeated use of the same setting foregrounds the different news and events that progress over the course of the play. The main protagonist, Troy Maxon, has a name rich with meaning. His first name alludes to the ancient Greek city whose epic fall was highlighted in Homer's Iliad, and Troy himself is a tragic hero who creates large and small conflicts with all the other characters in the play. His surname, Maxon, is a portmanteau of Mason-Dixon, the imaginary line that separated free and slave states in America, and comes to symbolize two opposing ideas of hope and disappointment in Fences. Act 1 begins on payday, Friday, with Troy and his loyal and attentive friend, Bono, drinking at Troy's house. Wilson forces the audience to acclimate to the world of the play by gathering information from their conversation. Both men work as garbage collectors and Troy is fighting for the right to be able to drive the garbage trucks, which white workers do, instead of just collecting the trash. Troy is concerned about his own survival in his stagnant, disappointing life, and fails to understand how his loved ones have learned to cope by seeking simple pleasures and luxuries. For example, his wife, Rose, enjoys playing the numbers, the game serving as a metaphor for the various hopes and gambles that each character will take on in their lives. The major conflict in the play is between Troy and his son Corey, thus between two separate generations, regarding Corey's future. Troy also has an elder son, Lyons, to whom he cannot relate, scoffing at his choice to become a musician. Corey wishes to play football and attend college, although Troy wants him to work. In the play's inciting incident, as the two build their home's fence together, Corey tells his father that he has given away his job at the local A&P because a coach from North Carolina is coming to watch him play football. Troy, enraged, demands that he get the job back. This specific conflict also represents conflicting interpretations of history. Corey is optimistic about the present and sees that the world can be a more accepting place for talented black men like himself. Troy, stuck in the past and bitter that he never made it to baseball's major leagues, wants to protect his son from the discrimination and disappointment he experienced. Ironically, he does not realize that his protection suffocates and stifles Corey by limiting his chances for success. Both baseball and fences serve as interwoven motifs throughout the play. Baseball shifts meaning over the course of the play, evoking everything from Troy's life philosophy to his relationships with his son and eventually to death. Fences are symbolic of relationships that can both bond and break, and they also indicate physical and emotional boundaries, as well as geographical and legal ones. Rose, perhaps, wishes for Troy and Corey to work on the fence together as a bonding experience and because she loves her family and wants to keep physically close to them. Troy, though, pushes people away. As the play's rising action begins, Troy reveals to Rose that he is having an affair with Alberta. Horror presents a world of illusion and escape for Troy that is separate from his responsibilities and disappointments. Rose reprimands him, and Troy grabs her arm, but Corey surprises him by attacking him from behind. Another key event occurs when Troy signs papers to commit his brother Gabriel, who suffered brain trauma during military service, to a mental institution. This action further drives a wedge between Troy and his family, especially as Troy admits he has used Gabriel's government money to pay for their house, which is another humiliation, bringing Troy's capabilities as provider for his family into question. As the play moves toward the climax, Alberta goes into labor early and dies during childbirth, leaving a baby girl behind. Rose vows to care for baby Raynell as her own child, but refuses to be dutiful as Troy's wife. In the play's climax, Troy picks a fight with Corey over what he perceives to be a lack of respect from son to father. Through their argument, Wilson underscores the idea of failed manhood and fatherhood when Corey points out how Troy could not even pay for his own home. The fight becomes violent when Troy confronts Corey with a baseball bat, an echo to Troy's own experiences with his father, and he kicks Corey out of the house. As the play's falling action unfolds, 7 years have gone by, and Troy has died from a heart attack. Corey returns home for his father's funeral, after joining the Marines. He speaks with Raynell, and the audience comes to understand that she has disrupted the pattern of generational violence in the Maxon family. Raynell is emblematic of the new hope for the future. As Fences reaches its resolution, the Maxon family is together in their home, except for the now deceased Troy. Gabriel, released from the hospital, improvises a dance and cries to the heavens, "That's the way that goes." His ability to create something joyous out of despair and hardship allows the play to end on a note of hope, suggesting that black men and women are free to create their own destinies in a changing world. Narrator. The play does not have a narrator, but the stage directions do lend an omniscient voice at times. Point of view. Not applicable. Drama. Tone. Loosely autobiographical, emphasizes links between the aftermaths of slavery as well as legalized discrimination in African American lives during the 1950s. Tense. Not applicable. Drama. Settings. Times. 1957, later, 1965. Setting. Place. The dirt yard and porch of the Maxon family's house in Pittsburgh, PA. Protagonists. Troy Maxon and Corey Maxon. Major conflict. Troy and Corey's opposing views on how Corey should spend his future deteriorates after Troy prohibits Corey from playing football and going to college. Their relationship disintegrates further when Troy reveals he has been cheating on Corey's mother with another woman and gotten her pregnant and signed papers permitting Corey's uncle Gabe to be committed to a mental hospital while Troy lives in a house paid for by Gabe's money. Rising actions. Troy reveals his affair with Alberta to his wife, Rose. Rose reprimands Troy. Troy viciously grabs Rose's arm and will not let go. Corey surprises Troy, attacking him from behind. Corey and Troy fight. Troy wins the fight and warns Corey that he has one more strike to spend. Climax. Rose tells Troy that Alberta died having his baby. Falling action. In Act 2, Scene 4, Troy picks a fight with Corey. Corey displays his disgust for Troy's betraying behavior towards Rose, Gabe, and Corey. Troy and Corey fight with a baseball bat. Troy wins and kicks Corey out of their house. Themes. Coming of age within the cycle of damaged black manhood, interpreting and inheriting history, the choice between pragmatism and illusions as survival mechanisms. Motifs. Death and baseball, seeds and growth, blues. Symbols. Trains, fences, the devil. Foreshadowing. In Act 1, Scene 1, Troy says without humility, "Death ain't nothing," but he eventually dies before the play ends. In Act 1, Scene 2, Gabriel talks in songs and strange stories about his friendship with Saint Peter, but sometimes his words appear to foreshadow Troy's demise. Gabe sings to Troy, "Better get ready for the judgment." In Act 1, Scene 1, Bono inquires about Troy's relationship with a woman named Alberta. Troy denies his affair with Alberta, but Bono says he has seen Troy buying her drinks and walking near her house when he says he's at the bar, Taylor's. Bono's questioning foreshadows Troy's inevitable inability to hide his secret.